Good evening, everyone. Let me have your attention as we get started tonight. We have a wonderful crowd here for our board dinner, and I want to extend to you a special thank you and welcome to this 31st annual dinner. We've got people here from several different places as far away as Nashville, Tennessee, and we intend to make it worth your while. Hope you'll have a great evening with our fellowship, with our meal, and also with our auction. Let me take this moment to ask all of you sometime during our meal to get up and wander around, look at all of the quilts and different things that we have to auction. There are some really neat items. One of those quilts over there, the group of ladies, special group of ladies, sent some pieces of quilt to several different politicians and important people like all of you. And so we have autographed over there Sarah Palin and Mike Huckabee and Gabby Gifford and her husband Mark Kelly, Daniel Webster, and a whole bunch of other people. What a neat idea for you ladies over at the Holly Hill Church of Christ in Holly Hill and Daytona to do. And I'm sure that some of you will be interested in looking at that and making special bids on that. The purpose of our dinner tonight is twofold. Number one, to honor and show respect to Orville and Mildred Boyd for the great contributions they've made to Christian Home and Bible School since 1946. Mildred Boyd and her family are seated down here in front of me. I won't ask them to stand, but could I ask you to show your appreciation to the whole Boyd family for what they mean to CHBS. Orville died several years ago, and Mildred has served on our board effectively and has helped to move the institution forward. She celebrated her 90th birthday just a few days ago. So she made me sign my name in blood that I would be there for her 100th birthday. And Mildred, I look forward to that. Robin Pruitt is one of our graduates here at CHBS, and he is an elder of the Concord Street Church down in Orlando. His wife, Kathy, works for us over at our development office, and he is going to come and lead us in our invocation. Would you please bow as we pray?
Would you bow with me? Our gracious and most holy Heavenly Father, we approach your throne and want to give our appreciation so much for your love, the love that you've shown through your Son, Jesus Christ, that you and him together decided that we were worth dying for. Thank you so much for that, Lord. And at this occasion, as we honor the Boyds and what they mean to this school and the scholarship fund that has been set up, we just pray, Lord, that you will be with us in this occasion, that you will help us to celebrate them and what they mean to this school. Lord, there's so many others that also mean a great deal to this school, and for that, we're very grateful. At this time, Lord, as we enjoy this meal together, we pray that you will bless us as we fellowship, bless us as we enjoy this meal, bless us as we enjoy this time together. Continually bless this institution and all the ones that make it great. And we pray that we'll give you all the glory and honor in all things that we do. And this is our prayer through Christ. Amen.
Our meal tonight is catered by Vic Embers, as it is every year, so I hope that all of you will enjoy your meal and enjoy the fellowship there at your table and visiting among yourselves. Thank you. I know that several of you have been looking at the quilts and other things that we have to auction tonight. If you'd like to take the next 3 or 4 minutes to do that, then we're going to proceed after that with the remaining part of the program. One of the main purposes here tonight is to honor Orville and Mildred Boyd, as I've mentioned earlier, and secondly, this is a scholarship benefit dinner to raise money for our scholarship program for students, children, families that need financial aid to attend our school. So I hope all of you have come prepared tonight to be engaged in our auction and to bid on these items, and let's see how much money we can raise for the Boyd Scholarship Dinner. If any of you need to get warmed up for the auction, we're going to give you a moment to do that. If any of you don't know what takes place in an auction, Charlie Body is going to come in just a few minutes, so he'll be telling you what you need to do and what you need to get ready for. But take a moment and walk over to the items and see what's there, and then we're going to proceed in about 3 to 4 minutes. If you need to have your water glass refreshed, well, now's the time to do that. We could ask everyone now to please take a seat. We'd like to proceed. I hope all of you have enjoyed your meal. Vic Embers always does an outstanding job with us. Vic Jr. graduated from our school, and they have run a very successful restaurant here in Lake County for a number of years. They always do us an excellent job. They cut us a very good price on the meal and give us the best of service that we could have from any restaurant or organization here in town. Jack, what are you telling me? I don't know what you're telling me. What are you telling me, Jack? That's about as loud as I can speak. Just need to turn it up back there with the volume. We are delighted tonight to have Charlie Body as our keynote speaker. Charlie Body is a 1956 graduate of Christian Home and Bible School. He is a dear friend to Christian education. He is a dear friend to Christian Home and Bible School. He grew up in Winter Garden, and after graduating from here as an outstanding athlete as well, he went on to his college degrees and involved himself in full-time church ministry for all of these years. Charlie's retired now. He lives in Montgomery, Alabama. He does a lot of speaking on workshops and lectureships and programs of various kinds across the United States, particularly the Southeast. He is a highly respected man of God and a dear friend of mine. Charlie has 2 children. They're both graduates of Christian Home and Bible School, and he and his wife, Mackie, have 3 grandchildren, and he says his wife is about to have their first great-grandchild. So that's good. Charlie is a man of many talents and many gifts, and I know that you will greatly enjoy the things that he will share with us tonight. Would you please join me in welcoming Charlie Body?
Now I know how pancake feels when it's had syrup poured all over it. I hope the Lord will forgive James for saying those things, and I hope he will forgive me for enjoying them. It is a great joy to be with you tonight, and I appreciate very much the opportunity to be here. It is an honor to be asked to speak on this occasion. The last time I spoke at one of these events was the last time that Brother Boyd was able to be present. And I shall always remember the fact that I was the speaker at the last one that he was able to attend. I don't mind telling you that I'm a little nervous tonight. I'm about like that frog that was perched on the interstate in downtown Atlanta Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock with his hopper gone. It's a little disconcerting to be here to speak in the presence of so many who are great gospel preachers, people whom I've known in the past, but I'm delighted to be here. I'm a little bit like that young fellow who became nervous at his wedding. At the conclusion of the ceremony, he kissed the preacher, gave $100 to his best man, and then left the wedding with his mother-in-law. Well, that's about the way I feel tonight. But it's an honor to be here, and I appreciate the invitation to be a part of this program tonight. I'm delighted to be here as a part of this event to honor Brother Boyd and Sister Boyd. I love Brother Boyd and miss him greatly. I was one of his boys, and he contributed greatly to my life. Were it not for his influence, I doubt that I would have preached the gospel for over half a century. He taught me in class, Bible class, speech classes, and encouraged me in this area. and I appreciate everything he did for me. We appreciate Sister Boyd. I was going to tell you tonight that she recently celebrated a birthday. I was not going to tell you which one it was, but I was going to mention, as James did, that in 10 years she will celebrate her 100th birthday. But we appreciate very much the fact that she's able to be with us, continuing the legacy of Brother Boyd, continuing to serve the Christian Home and Bible School, and we are grateful for that. Brother Boyd must have seen the results of my aptitude tests. You know, you can take those aptitude tests, and they can tell you what you're suited for in life. He must have seen mine, and he thought that I could either become a preacher or an anesthesiologist. Somehow there must be a connection in those two. Some of you are a little slow. You're going to have to keep up with me tonight now. Being a preacher has its difficulties. As a preacher for a long time, I can tell you there are some difficulties involved in preaching the gospel. One of them is communication. We are always interested in trying to communicate with people, and that's a difficult thing. After 35 trips to Russia and Ukraine, doing mission work and training Russian preachers, I can tell you that communication is a difficult problem, especially when you're dealing in different languages. I heard about a salesman from America who went over to China on a business trip. He went into a restaurant to eat, but he couldn't read the menu, he couldn't understand the waiter, and the waiter couldn't understand him. He finally decided that he would just point to something on the menu and he'd eat whatever he brought. The waiter understood, brought the food to him. He began to eat it, and he said, "Now this is good. I'd like to find out what it is so I can have my wife to make some when I get back home." He beckoned for the waiter to come over, tried to communicate. He couldn't understand the waiter couldn't understand him. And he thought, now this must be duck. It tastes like duck. I'll just point to it and say, like the duck does, quack, quack. Maybe he'll understand. And so he pointed to the food and said, quack, quack. And the waiter nodded in agreement and understanding, shook his head this way, pointed to the food and said, meow, meow. Communication is a difficult thing, and preachers have difficulties with that. I recently read that a doctor said that our hearing becomes dulled after eating, and I guess that's nature's way of protecting us from after-dinner speakers like me. But there are some difficulties that we encounter. Some people go to sleep while we're speaking. A young preacher was talking to an older one on one occasion and said, "I have trouble with people going to sleep when I'm preaching." And the older preacher said, "I have the same trouble, but I'll tell you what I do. I stop preaching and tell a joke and get their attention, and then I go back to my sermon." And the young preacher said, "Well, I can't tell jokes. I can't do it." And the older preacher said, "I'll tell you one that I have used, and then you can remember it." But the young fellow said, "I can't remember the punchline." And the older preacher said, "When I'm preaching and people begin to go to sleep, I stop and say, 'Some of the happiest hours of my life have been spent in the arms of another man's wife.'" And everybody wakes up. They open their mouth, and you can almost count their tonsils. And then he says, "It was my mother." That computes, and they settle down. And then I go back to my sermon, he said. The young preacher said, "I'll try that." The next time he got up to preach, people began to go to sleep. And he stopped and said, "Some of the happiest hours of my life have been spent in the arms of another man's wife." He paused, turned red, and said, "But for the life of me, I can't remember that woman's name." So we have some difficulties when we try to preach. But to be successful, you have to be educated. And I'm going to be emphasizing the fact that you need to have an education if you're going to be successful in anything you try to do. Now, some people think they're educated when they're not. Some people think they understand things when they don't. Some years ago, I heard the story of a Saudi Arabian prince who was invited to visit a couple here in America. And this couple had a little boy who was always embarrassing them by what he said. And they told that little boy, "Don't you say anything to embarrass us." And the night the prince arrived, the doorbell rang. The man and his wife and the little boy went to the door, and there stood the prince in that long flowing robe and with a face full of whiskers. That little boy was intrigued by all the whiskers on that fella. He looked like Osama bin Laden, but he didn't say anything. And the mother said, "Oh, won't you come in, oh prince, my friend?" He came in. They sat down in the living room and chatted for a few minutes. And then the mother said, "Would you care to dine, O Prince Divine?" They went into the dining room, sat down to eat, and the mother poured the prince some coffee. And then she said, "Would you like some cream, O Prince Supreme?" And the little boy hadn't said anything, and he thought he had caught on. He picked up the sugar bowl and said, "Would you care for some sugar, you hairy booger?" So we have some difficulties when we think we're educated, when we're not. I heard about a preacher who was asked to conduct a funeral, a graveside funeral, for a homeless man who had died. And the funeral director told this man there probably won't be any friends or relatives there. We couldn't find friends or relatives for him. And he's going to be the first one buried in a new cemetery they have out here in the country. And it's going to be a little difficult to find because there are no tombstones there. So this preacher agreed to do it. The funeral was to be at 11 o'clock, and he wandered around out there until noon trying to find that place. And finally he saw a tractor with a backhoe and some men sitting under a tree eating their lunch. So he stopped and walked over to those men. He saw the hole in the ground. He looked inside, and he saw that the concrete top had been placed on the vault already. And he apologized to these workers because he was late. He said, "I didn't know where the graveyard was and had trouble finding it." But he said, "I think it would be appropriate for me to say a few words over the grave." The hearse had already gone, and he assumed they had left the body there and went on back to town. He stood by that grave and preached and preached and preached. And finally, he had a closing prayer. He started back to his car, and he heard one of these workers say to another worker, "I ain't never seen anything like that in my life, and I've been putting in septic tanks for 20 years or so." So those of us who preach have some difficulties along the way. I've known of some other problems that we preachers have. There was a man who was new in town, and he checked with the Lions Club to see where the next meeting would be, and they asked him to be the speaker because he was new in town. When he arrived at the place for the meal and meeting, they had him to sit at the head table, and when he sat down, he said to the man beside him, "I'm going to be very embarrassed tonight because I forgot my false teeth and left them at home." And the man said, "No problem." He pulled out a set of teeth and said, "Try these on." They were too tight. The man said, "No problem." Hand him another pair. And he tried those on, and they were loose. He said, "No problem." Gave him another pair. He tried them on, and they were just right. He went ahead and ate the meal and then spoke. And when he sat down, he said to that man, "You have saved my life tonight. I would have been greatly embarrassed. I'm new in town, and I'm going to be looking for a dentist. Where's your office?" He said, "I'm not a dentist. I'm an undertaker." And so we preachers run into all sorts of problems when we're trying to speak. I heard about a young fellow who was rather mischievous. His family lived out in the country, and they didn't have indoor plumbing. They had an outhouse out here about 50 feet from the house, and it was right on top of a cliff. And on Halloween night, that boy thought he'd have some fun, and he pushed the outhouse over the cliff. Later, his daddy called him in and said, "Son, I want to tell you a story about George Washington." He chopped down a cherry tree, and his daddy said, "Son, did you chop down that cherry tree?" And George said, "I must not tell a lie. I chopped down the cherry tree." And his daddy rewarded him with a cookie. And then this man said to his son, "Did you push our outhouse over the cliff?" He thought of that story about George Washington and said, "I cannot tell a lie. I pushed the outhouse over the cliff." And his daddy got a belt and beat the tar out of him. Through his tears, that boy said, "I don't understand." George Washington told the truth and said he chopped down the cherry tree, and his daddy rewarded him with a cookie for telling the truth. I told you the truth and said I pushed the outhouse over the cliff, and you beat the tar out of me. And the daddy said, "Yes, but George's daddy was not sitting in that cherry tree when he chopped it down." So we face all sorts of problems. You need to have an education, and you can avoid some of those problems. You need to have a BA, an MA, and a PhD. Now, you need to have a BA. That means a believing attitude. If it is to be, it's up to me. I determine what my attitude will be, and my attitude will determine how successful I become. Now, we're living at a time in which there are many people who don't have a good attitude. We have a lot of stinking thinking in the world today, and we need a checkup from the neck up. We need to have a positive, optimistic attitude. A fellow used to talk to himself constantly, and someone asked him, "Why are you always talking to yourself?" He said, "In the first place, I like to talk to intelligent people. And in the second place, I like to hear intelligent people talk." Maybe that's the attitude we ought to have. A BA, a believing attitude. A man stopped at a Little League baseball game on the way home from work. His son was playing in the game. He wanted to see him play. He was a little bit late, and he sat down and asked the third baseman, "What's the score?" And the man said, or the boy said, "We're behind 18-0. And the man said, "You don't look very discouraged." He said, "Why should we be discouraged? We haven't had our turn at bat yet." That's the kind of attitude we need if we're going to be successful in anything. You need a BA. And secondly, you need an MA, a motivated attitude. If you're properly motivated, you can do just about anything you want to do. The Bible says in Philippians 4:13, "I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me." Now, I like that story about the fellow who was walking across a cemetery one night when it was very dark, and he fell into a hole. They had dug a grave for the next day and did not have it covered. And he fell into that thing and couldn't get out. It was 6 feet deep, and every time he tried to claw his way out, he was pulling dirt in on top of himself. He finally decided he couldn't get out, and he sat down over in the corner to wait until daylight. Somebody would come. And then after a while, another man came across that cemetery and fell into the same hole. And now this first one didn't say anything for a while, and he watched him as he was silhouetted against the sky. And after a while, this first man sitting there said, "You might as well give up. You can't get out of here." But he did. When you have the proper motivation, you can do just about what you want to do. You can even improve your marriage if you have the proper motivation. There was an elderly couple that had been married for 50 years. They went to bed one night, and the man was in that never land, almost asleep, and he heard his wife crying. And he jumped up and said, "What's wrong, hon?" She said, "Time was when you would kiss me good night before going to sleep. He said, "Is that all it is?" He kissed her good night and turned over to go to sleep. And again, he was in that twilight zone, and he heard her crying. He jumped up and said, "What's wrong now, hon?" She said, "Time was when you would hold my hand when you were going to sleep." He took her hand and held it and tried to go to sleep, and he was almost gone. And he heard her crying again. He jumped up and said, "What's wrong now, hon?" She said, "Time was when you would nibble on my ear before going to sleep." He started throwing off the cover to get out of bed, and she said, "Don't get mad." He said, "I'm not mad, I'm just going to get my teeth." When you have the proper motivation, you can make everything better, even a good marriage. You know, we have a motive for everything we do. There's a reason behind everything. There was a man who got married on one occasion. He didn't have much money, but the woman he married did. His name was Henry. Her name was Henrietta. And Henrietta always told him that it was her money that bought everything. She bought a new house, and Henrietta said, "Henry, you know, if it were not for my money, this house wouldn't be here." And then she bought all new furniture, and she said, "Henrietta, or Henry, do you realize that if it were not for my money, this furniture wouldn't be here?" And then she bought a new car and said, "Henry, if it were not for my money, this car wouldn't be here." He'd had enough of it about that time. He said, "Henrietta, I hate to tell you this, but if it were not for your money, I wouldn't be here either." We have a reason for everything we do. And I probably need to say, if it were not for your money, you wouldn't be here tonight. You have some money you want to get rid of. You want to do some good with it. And there are two fellows here who will help you determine what to do with it. Tim Deem and James Moore. They can help you determine what to do with it. I've only known Tim for 2 or 3 years, but I've learned to love him, have great respect for him. James Moore has been a friend of mine for well over 30 years. I suppose I'm responsible for his being down in Central Florida. When I was preaching for the Concord Street Church, I asked the elders to consider bringing James to Concord Street to be our educational director. They did, and he came, and he's been down here ever since. He worked for a number of years in various capacities with the Concord Street Church, and then came to Mount Dora to be the president of this great institution. And James has learned how to beg for money. You may have noticed that. And I just imagine that when he dies, they're going to put this scripture on his tombstone for an epitaph. And it came to pass that the beggar died. And that'll be a good description of Brother James Moore. They tell me he was going to the bank one day with a deposit. And before he got into the bank, a robber accosted him and said, "Give me your money or I'll blow your brains out." And James said, "Go ahead and blow my brains out. You can run this place without brains, but you can't run it without money." He's learned how to get money and what to do with it and keep it. A lady came into his office one day and told him that her cat had died. And she said, "James, I'd like for you to preach a funeral sermon and conduct a funeral for my cat." And James said, "You know, I've never preached a funeral for a cat. And besides, a cat doesn't have a soul." And she began to weep. She said, "I was going to give you $1,000 to do it. And I guess I'll have to go down and talk to the Baptist preacher down the road." And James said, "Wait just a minute now, don't get too hasty. You didn't tell me that cat was a Christian." He has learned how to get money and how to keep it. Did he ever tell you about the time a man called his office and his secretary answered the phone, and this man said, "I'd like to talk to the idiot who runs this place"? And his secretary said, "Now, our president's name is James Moore, and you need to be more respectful if you're going to talk to him." He said, "All right, let me speak to the idiot who runs that place." She said, "I told you His name is James Moore, and you'll have to be more respectful than that. Now, who do you want to talk to? He said, I want to talk to the idiot who runs that place. And she said, I've told you twice, you have to be more respectful than that. And the man said, I'm a wealthy man, and I have $1 million that I want to give to some place that's doing good work. She said, wait just a minute, I think I see the idiot coming now. James has learned how to get money, how to motivate people. He has an MA, a motivated attitude, and he has learned how to motivate other people, and I'm sure he'll do that tonight. We all need to be educated, need to have a BA, a believing attitude, an MA, a motivated attitude, and then we need to have a PhD. That means pure human determination. We can do about what we want to do if we have that PhD. If you are determined, you can do about what you want to do. There was a man who had trouble with snoring. He went to the doctor, and the doctor said, does your snoring bother your wife? He said, does it bother my wife? It bothers the whole congregation. He'd go to sleep and snore in worship, and a preacher told his wife what to do about it. He said, bring a piece of raw onion in your pocketbook, put it in a napkin so it won't smell up your pocketbook too much, and then when he goes to sleep, get out that raw onion and rub it on his upper lip just under his nose so he can really smell it. The next service, he went to sleep. She got out that onion, rubbed it on his upper lip. He sniffed a time or two, didn't even open his eyes, reached over, touched his wife's arm and said, "Hun, wake up, you've got your foot on my pillow." You can deal with just about any problem if you have a PhD, pure human determination. It is not the IQ, but the I will that is important in education. Doesn't really matter what your IQ is if you have a PhD, pure human determination. But you know, sometimes we want to take a shortcut. We don't want to go around the long way and work at it. I heard about a lazy man and his lazy son who lived out here in the hills around Mount Dora. And on a cold winter day, they were sitting around the fireplace, and this man said, "Son, go out and see if it's raining outside." And the boy said, "Oh, Paul, why don't we just call the dog in and see if he's wet?" There's some folks who want to take the shortcut. They don't want to work at it. But if we're going to accomplish anything worthwhile, we'll have to have PhD, pure human determination, and really work at it. Success is 2% inspiration and 98% perspiration. If we want to make our dreams come true, we'll have to wake up. Many dreams don't come true because of oversleeping. But I'm confident that I'm speaking to people tonight who want everything to succeed here at CHBS. You want to reach that goal of $10 million, is that about what it is? And I'm confident that you're going to want to do it. I'm reminded of a lady who was having heart pains and went to the doctor. The doctor confirmed the fact that she had some heart trouble, and he said, "Now, I want you to take it easy. I don't want you to exert yourself too much. Don't be climbing any stairs." She said, "Doc, my apartment is on the 3rd floor of my apartment building, and we don't have an elevator. How am I going to get up to my apartment?" He said, "I don't know, but you're going to have to work out something, because if you keep climbing those stairs, you may just have a heart attack. And come back and see me in a month." She came back to see him, and she was doing fine. Her pulse was good. Her blood pressure was good. And he said, "Just keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing fine." She said, "Does that mean I can go back to climbing the stairs to my apartment?" He said, "I don't understand why you can't." She said, "I'm glad to hear that. I was getting tired of climbing that drain pipe up there to the 3rd floor to my apartment." Now, I'm confident that you're going to be like that woman. You are zealous, you're going to put forth great effort, and you're going to succeed. May I tonight challenge all of us to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, and reach for that unreachable star. And if we'll do that, we can climb until our dreams come true. May God bless us to that end. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Charlie's full of funnies. I've never seen a guy that has a thicker joke file than Charlie Body. When I was working with Charlie over at Concord Street years ago, I used to love to go into his office and get into his joke file, and he and I would exchange funnies. And through the years, I don't know of anyone I've exchanged more jokes and funnies with than Charlie Body. Charlie, thank you for being here tonight, and thanks for motivating us and lifting us up. Among those that we have here tonight is Tim Deem that Charlie mentioned, who is our Vice President of Development. Tim is doing an outstanding job in this area, and he is going to come tonight and share with us some ways that you can help us reach our goal so that we can go up to that next level of success and goodwill among our students here at CHBS. Please welcome Tim Deem.
Thank you, Charlie. I'd like to get into that joke file, especially those James Moore jokes. Most of those we haven't heard. Jack didn't even share those with us. And so I think if you had some more of those, we might share those in Montgomery next weekend. First of all, thank you all for being here. We had a huge turnout. I mean, just look here. This room is absolutely packed. If you were one of the people who helped with putting this together, if you were a congregational promoter, would you please stand up so we could acknowledge you for your work here? I know you're here. Yeah, I see a few here. Please stand. The mission of Christian Home and Bible School, our mission is educating for life and eternity. The first part of that mission, educating for life, we're preparing young people to go out into the world. We're preparing them to go out, maybe to go to college. Maybe they're going to go to a trade school. Some of them will join the military. Some of them will get married and start families. But what we're attempting to do through this school is give them the tools to go out and function in the world so they can go out and compete with others their age. We're helping them to prosper themselves. We're helping them to succeed in life. Most of all, though, we're going to try to help them to be healthy and happy individuals. And that's the second part of that mission, because not just educating them for life, we're here to educate them for eternity. You know, when we think about eternity, that's that life that's to come after this one's over. We want to introduce them to a loving God who's going to be with them for the remainder of their lives. A God who's going to comfort them, who's going to inspire them, who's going to lead them. A God who's going to protect them and love them. On our campus today, only about 50% of our students have a church background. Only 18% are from the Church of Christ. And so we have an obligation, we have a duty, we have a commitment to these kids that we're going to teach them about God. We're going to introduce them to God on a daily basis. They're going to attend a chapel service every single day. They're going to have the Bible taught to them every single day. Not as an elective, It's a required course all the way through high school. And we're going to put them to work in mission projects. We want them to understand that a servant heart is really what's necessary to be a well-rounded human. And so that second part of the mission, educating for life and eternity, takes on a whole different meaning when we think of it that way. It wasn't by accident that we had Robin Pruitt lead our opening prayer. Robin is a graduate of the Christian Home and Bible School. His 3 sons graduated from here. Charlie graduated from here, his wife and his 2 children. The man who will lead our closing prayer, Jerry Starling, graduated from Christian Home and Bible School. Let me just ask by a show of hands, how many of you either attended or graduated from this institution? How many of you had a spouse or a child graduate from here? Maybe a grandchild. I think it goes without saying that each of you understand and you share our belief in that mission. And the rest of you obviously share that, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Many of you have been coming here year after year, and you have a passion for what goes on here. Yes, we have a children's home here, and that's what a lot of people have it on their heart to help. But the other half of this great organization is that school. And that mission of educating these young people for eternity has so much greater meaning nowadays. I mean, when we look in the world around us and we see what's going on out there, Christian education is more important than ever before. The world has changed from when you grew up, when I grew up. The kids that we're educating now, it's a much different environment. And that's why it's so much more important that we provide a place where they can come and be educated. Not every family can afford to send their child to a private Christian school. And that's why we are so blessed by scholarship funds like the one that Mildred and Orville established 31 years ago. That's why we're fortunate that people like Jim and Betty Hauk and Bill and Nell Sasser and others who have established scholarship funds, they recognize the needs that children have and that families have to place their kids in a place like CHBS. And so we want to make sure that that continues on into the future. We want to make sure that every family is able to send a child here, whether or not they have the financial ability to or not. You may have noticed in your program that this fund has grown to over $350,000, and we have awarded monies to over 400 students, and this next year we'll continue to do that. And so tonight we're here to ask for your help, and that's what James has hired me to do, not just here, but all over Florida, all over the Southeast. We will be in Montgomery next weekend. We will be in Tampa and Jacksonville in April. We'll be in Nashville. We travel all over because there's people all over the country who recognize the importance of what takes place right here in Mount Dora, Florida. It has eternal significance. So tonight we're going to ask that you appoint one person to be a captain at each of your tables. You'll see an envelope on the table that says donation envelopes, and inside of there are some individual envelopes. And we're going to ask that you make your best gift to help support the Boyd Scholarship Fund so that we can send even more children to this school, so that we can prepare them for life and eternity. And at the conclusion of the auction, we're going to ask that these captains find either myself or James or Jack McDonald or Kathy Pruitt, or there's a table set up in the back, a cashier's table. Drop off the large envelopes there. But please know this, what you do tonight does have an impact. No matter how large or small a gift, it makes a difference, because there are families out there that desperately want to send their children to this school, and we want to make sure that they're able to do that. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you so much for considering that. And Tommy, we about ready to get this auction started? Has everybody had a chance? You want a couple more minutes to look at the auction items, or are you ready to roll right into it? Let's roll. Tommy Stiffy has been our auctioneer for the last several years. We are delighted to have Tommy here with us tonight. Now it gets going fast, right, Tommy?
That's right.
His father, George, is going to be out here helping us spot, so make sure you wave your hand up high, wave a piece of paper, something, get their attention. There are some beautiful items going to be auctioned off tonight. So if you're ready, I'm going to turn it over to Tommy.
I'm going to take this off. Okay. I'm going to take this off because I'll work around the room a little bit. So we appreciate you being here. It's a great opportunity for you to help out in this. There are a lot of great quilts that were made over there. We'd like to thank all of the ladies and all the ones that had a hand in making this available for us this evening. Do not be afraid to bid. Get your hands in the air real quick. It's very easy. All you have to do is raise a hand. Doesn't matter which hand it is. So that's all we ask you to do is just raise your hand and we're going to go through, okay? We will go right down in order, so make sure that you can follow that. There are sheets available in the table, right there on the table with you, and we'll explain and give. Okay, quilt number 1 is an Independence Day. It's red, white, and blue as the theme. It's an all-American quilt. It's made by the Concord Street Quilters, and it is 84 by 84. How much? Him gonna get forward. He'll get 500. Yep, 500 down with him on 5. 500 down with him on 500. Him gonna get 5. 500 down. He'll get 200. And 200 down with him on 200. And 200 down with him on 2. 200 down and I'm gonna get 200. 200. And 200 down. He'll give a $100 bill for that quilt. $100, 100 and a quarter, 100 and a quarter, 125. I got $100, 1 and a quarter, 125, $100, 1 and a quarter. He better get 125. 100 and a quarter, $100, 125, 100 and a quarter, 100 bid, 125, $100, 1 and a quarter. He better get 100, 1 and a quarter, 100 and a quarter, 100 and a quarter. Okay, here, let me show y'all something. Everybody raise your right hand. Just raise your right hand. It's okay, because I'm not auctioning right now. Everybody raise your right hand. Thank you. 100 and a quarter, 100 and a half. 100. I mean, it's that easy. It's not hard. 100 and a quarter, $100, 1 and a quarter. Thank you. 150, 150, 125, 150, 150. I'm going to go 125, 150. In the back, thank you. 175, 175, and now 200. And 200 down with them on 200, 200. Yep, 200 down with them on 200, 200. I got 175 here, $200. I'm going to get 200. And 200 down with them on 200, 200. I'm going to bid 200 down with them on 200, 175. 200, 2 and a quarter, 225. 2 and a quarter. Him gonna get 200, 225. I got 200 right in the middle, 2 and a quarter. Him gonna get 225. How about a bit 225? Yep, $200, 2 and a quarter. I'm gonna get 225. I'm gonna get 200, 2 and a quarter. And $200, 2 and a quarter. Anybody else 2 and a quarter? 250. I'm gonna get 250. And 2 and a quarter, 250. Yep, 250. I'm gonna get 250, 275. And 275. How about a bit 250, 275. And now 300. And 300 down with them on 300, 300. And 300 down with them on 275, 300, 300. And 300 down with them on 275. $300 in the middle. 300 down with them on 300. Last call. Anybody get 300, 275, 300? Anybody else 300? Sold. $275. Thank you. $275. Make sure you raise your hand so Tim can see who you are and he can come by and make sure you get the proper documents signed and all that. Item number 2. This one is tumbling blocks. It's a unique geometric quilt. It was machine pieced together and then it was hand quilted by Miss Shirley Johnson of the Central Church of Christ in Winter Haven. It is actually 84 by 96. And I tell you, the more I looked at this quilt, it's very unusual, okay? You stand there, it looks like it's in 3D and all that. It's all kinds of neat things the more you look at the quilt. How much on it? Him gonna get 800. Ain't gonna down with him on 800. Him gonna get 8. Ain't gonna down with him on 800. He'll get 500. And 500 down with him on 500. Him gonna get 500. Yep, 500 down with him on 5. 500 down with him on 500. He'll get 200. And 200 down with him get 200. Yep, 200 down with him on 200. 200 and got 100. 125. $100, 100 and a quarter. 125. 150. 150. 175. 200. And 200 down with him on 200. Got 175 over here. 200. Yep, 200 down with him on 200. 200. And 175. 200. Yep, 200 down with him on 200. 200. I got 175. 200. Him at a bit 2. 200 now 225. And 2 and a quarter. I'm gonna get 225. And 200. 225. And just stare at it, ma'am. Just stare at it. It makes you bid. And 2 and a quarter. I'm gonna get 225. And puts you in hypnosis. 225. I'm gonna get 225. 200. 2 and a quarter. Thank you. Now 250. And 250. I'm gonna get 225. 250. And 250. I'm gonna get 225. 250. And 250. I'm gonna get 225. 250. And you know what? I'm at 275 and 275. And I got 250, 275. Hit $250, 275 and 250 to bid 275. We're 250 way in the back corner. 275 and 250, 275. Anybody else? They're going to get 275, 250, 275. Hit 275. Last call. 275, 300. 300 and 300 down, I'm on 300, 300 and 3 and a quarter and 325 and I got 300, 3 and a quarter and 325 and I got 300, 3 and a quarter. Hit 325 and I got 300, 3 and a quarter. Anybody else? 325, 300, 3 and a quarter. Last call, $325. Sold in the back, $300. Thank you very much. $300. Thank you. Okay, item number 3 is the Longaberger baskets back in the back corner there. These are 18 individual baskets in a variety of sizes. They were donated by the late Mary Hassler. Some of them are signed. Most of them are even dated. Some of them back in the 1990 and all that. There's 18 of them. She was from the Pleasant Grove Road Church of Christ in Inverness. They are all signed and dated, and even some of them have plastic liners in them. You're buying them all as a complete set, okay? So you're buying the whole set of them, all of them for one money. How much? Him gonna get 800, and a day, and a day, and a bit 800. Him gonna get 800, and a day, $800. Who get 500? And 500 down, and I'm 500 down, and I'm 500. 500, as you can see in there, it takes 300 to get it started. 300 and $300. Him gonna get 300. Hit 300 down, and I'm on 300, 300 and 300 down, and I'm on 300, 300 down, and I'm on 300. Now quarter, 3 and a quarter, 300, 325 and 325. I'm gonna get 300, 3 and a quarter and 325, 350 and 350. I'm gonna get 325, 350 and 350. A table could pull together, and each one of y'all could have a basket to take home. At 325, 350, 325, 350. If there's 19 of you, tough luck. 350 and 3 and a quarter, 350. I'm gonna get 3 and a quarter, 350. Hit 350. I'm gonna get 325, 350 and 350. I'm gonna get 325, 350. Last call, 350, 375, 375, 375. I'm gonna get 350 to bid 75 and 375. I'm gonna get 350, 375 and 375 in the back corner, 375 and 350, 375. Way over here. Thank you. Now 400 and 400 down. I'm on 400, 400 and 400 down. I'm gonna get 375. Bid 4. Hit 400 down. I'm on 400. I got 375 over here. 400 and 400 down. I'm on 400, 400. Hey, I'm gonna get 375. 400 for all of them. $400. Hey, I'm gonna get 4. And 400. Now, thank you. Now 4 and a quarter. And 425. I'm going to get 4 and a quarter. Thank you. Now 450. And 450. And 450. Hit 425. 450. And 4 and a quarter. 450. And 4 and a quarter. 450. I'm going to get 450. I'm going to miss you in at 4 and a quarter. 450. And 450. I'm going to get 450. 475. And 475. And 475. I'm going to get 450 to bid 75. And 475. Thank you. 500. And 500 down. I'm on 500. And 500 down. I'm on 500. 500. And 500 down. I'm on 500. If you give 500, I can talk to Mr. Moore and probably get you a seat up front next year. And 500 and 500 and 475, 500. If 500 now, I'm on 500, 500 and 500 to 475, 500 in the back, $500 I'm going to get 500. Thank you. Now 5 and a quarter and 525 and 5 and a quarter. Thank you. Now 550 and 550. I don't think she's getting weak. Try her one more time. 550 and 5 and a quarter, 550 and 550. I'm going to get 550 and 550. I'm going to get 5 and a quarter, 550. I'm on 550. Last call. 550, 5 and a quarter, 550. Sold. 5 and a quarter way over here on the right. 5 and a quarter. Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, item number 4. I think there's 3 of them as a set. Rocking Horse is 56 by 56. These were created by Lois Paisley and friends from the West Broward Church of Christ. They're going to sell all 3 of them. They are named Rocking Horse, Circus, and Alphabet Soup, and you're buying them all. Buying all 3 of them for one money. Him going to get 500, and 500 I'm on 5. 500 I'm on 500. Him going to get 5. 500 I'm on 5. Who'll get 200 for all of them? And $200. Him going to get 200, 200. Hit 200 I'm on 200, 200 I'm on 2, $200 I'm on 200, 200. Now I'm going to get 200 and 200. Who'll give 100? 100 and a quarter. 100 and a quarter on them all. $100, 125. 100 to be 125. 100 and a quarter, I'm going to get 125. $100, 1 and a quarter. And 125. 100 bid 125. 100 and a quarter. $100, 1 and a quarter, I'm going to get 125. 1 and a quarter. 125, I'm going to get 125. 125. If you bid, that does not mean that you're expecting, okay? These do not have to be baby quilts. They could be lap robes. 100 and a quarter. 100 and a quarter, $100, 125, 100 to be 125, 100 and a quarter. Here, get $100, 1 and a quarter, 100 and a quarter. Here, get 125, 100 and a quarter on them all. Thank you. 150, 150 on them all. 150. I'm gonna get 125, 150, 150. I'm gonna get 125, 150, 150. I'm gonna get 125, 150 on all of them. $150, 125, 150, 150. I'm gonna get 125, 150. Last call. 150 in the back, 175, 175, 175, 150 to bid 75, 175, 175, 150 to bid 175, 175, 100 down on 175, 175, 100 on 150, 175, and 100. Go ahead, they already bought something. It's your turn now. 175, 150 to 175, 150, 175, 175. Last call. 150, 175, 175. So in the back corner, $150. Thank you. $150 in the back corner. All right, item number 5, Stitcher's Garden, a very intricate quilt with a wide variety of decorative stitching. There's Prairie Points border. Wow, easy for you to say. It was made by Barbara Fugger of the Spring Garden Church of Christ. It's 64 by 84, and it's very, very beautiful. How much on it? Hey, I'm going to get 800, and 800 down with them, 800, 800 down with them, 800, I'm going to get 500, and 500 down with them, 500. He better get 500 down with them, 500. Who get 200? And 200. Have it about $200. Thank you. Not 225. I got 200, 2 and a quarter, and 225. And I got 200, 2 and a quarter, and 225, 250, 275, 275, 300, and 300 down with them, 300, 300, and 275, 300, and 300 down. I got 275 in the middle, 300, and 300 down. I got 275, 300. Yeah, 300 down with them, 300. 300, 300, hit 275, 300, now 3 and a quarter, and 325, and I got 300, 3 and a quarter, and 325, and I got 300, 3 and a quarter, and 325, and I got 3 and a quarter, and 325, and I got 300, 3 and a quarter, hit 325, and I got 300, 3 and a quarter, 350, and 350, and I got 325, and 350. I got 325, 350, and 350. Hit 350, I'm going to get 325 in the middle now, 350, and 350, I'm going to get 325, 350. Anybody else? And now 375, and now 375, and 350 to bid 75. How about about 75 and 350, 375. Hit 375, I'm going to get 350 to bid 75, and 375, I'm going to get 350 to bid 75, and 375. Anybody else? 375, and 350 to bid 75, 400, and 400 out of them, 400, 400. I got 375, 400, and 400 out of them, 400, 400. Hit 400 down with them, 375, 400, and 400 down with them, 375, 400, and 400 down with them, 400, 400, and 400 down. Last call. I'm going to get 400 down with them, 375, 400. Sold at $375 in the middle, 375. All right, number 6. One Nation Under God, a patriotic quilt that was created by the ladies of the Holly Hill Church of Christ. It contains over 30 original signatures. Governor Sarah Palin, Mike Huckabee, Jeb Bush, Daniel Webster, Gabby Gifford, and her husband, Mark Kelly. Numerous other ones that are in there proudly served in the armed forces. It is a beautiful, beautiful quilt. It was done by Linda Leatherstitch of Zellwood, and it's a 98 by 102, which is about king size, or if you want to double some over, it's beautiful. How much? Hey, I'm going to get 2,000. And 2,000 down and I'm on 2,000. Hey, I'm going to get 1,500. Hey, but I'm on 1,500. Yeah, 1,500 down and I'm on 1,500. Hey, who give $1,000? 1,000. Thank you. 1,100. $1,000. 1,100. Hey, I'm going to get $1,000. 1,100 down and I'm 1,050. 1,050. I'm going to get $1,000. 1,050. 1,100. At 1,150. 1,150. At 1,150. I'm going to get 1,100. 1,150. At 1,150. I'm going to get 1,100. 1,150. At 1,150. I'm going to get 1,100. 1,150. At 1,100. 1,150. Now 12. And 1,200. 1,250. At 1,250. I'm going to get 1,200. 1,250. And 1,300. At 1,350. At 1,350. I'm going to get 1,300. 1,350. And 1,400. I'm going to get 14 now 50. At 1,450. I'm going to get 1,450. And 1,500. Now 1,550. And 1,550. I'm going to get 1,500 now a half. At 1,550. I'm going to get 1,500 now a half. And $1,550 now and I'm on 1,550. 1,600. And 1,650. And 1,650. I'm going to get 1,600. 1,650. And 1,650 now $1,700, and now $1,750. It's $1,750, I'm gonna get $1,700 now, $50. It's $1,750, I'm gonna get $1,750, $1,800, $1,850, $1,850, I'm gonna get, y'all wanna see him bid? Say yeah, come on, $1,850, $1,850, $1,850. I've been doing it a long time. It's one of the nicest ones I've seen put together. $1,850, $1,850, $1,900, and $1,950. And $1,950. I'm gonna get $1,900, $1,950, and $2,000, and $2,000, $2,050, and $2,050, and $2,050. I'm gonna get $2,000, $2,050, and $2,050. I'm gonna get $2,050. Hit $2,000, $2,050, and $50. I'm gonna get $2,000, $2,050. Anybody else? $2,050. I got them on $2,100, $2,100, $2,150. 2150, 2150, 2150, hit 2100, 2150, and 2100, 2150, hit 2150. Now I'm gonna get 2150 and 2150. Say yes, $100 out of 2200 and 2250 and 2250 and 2250. I'm gonna get 2200, 2250 and 2250. Now 2300 and 2350, hit 2350. I'm gonna get 2350. Now 4 and 2450, hit 2450. Now 2500, now 2550 and 2550 and 2550. I'm gonna get 2550. 50, 50, 50, now 2,600, at 2,650, and 2,650, I'm gonna get 2,650, 50, 50, and 2,650, and $3,000, thank you, 3,100, and now 3,200. She's not scared to be at 3,200. At 3,233, it would have been 3,334, and $3,400. Now I'm on 3,400, and 3,400, and 3,334, and $3,400, 3,500, and 3,500. It would have been 35, and 3,500, 3,600, and 36, $4,000, 4,100, and 4,100. And 4,100 and $4,000, 4,100. If 4,100 down at the moment, I'm 4,100. Now 4,200 and 4,300 and $4,300 down at the moment, I'm 43 and 4,300 and 4,200, 4,300 and 4,300. Anybody else? It would have been 43 and 4,200, 43 and 4,300 down at the moment, I'm 43. I got 4,200, 4,300 and 4,300. Last call. That would have been 4,300, 43. Now 44, and 4,400, and now 45, and 4,500, and 4,500, and 4,500, I'm gonna get 44, 45, and 4,500 down at the moment, I'm on 45, 4,400, 45. Anybody else? Last call, 4,500, 44, and 45. Sold, $4,400, and we say thank you. Number 7 is American Sampler. The cross stitching was done by the late Peggy Johnson of Willoughby, Ohio, over 40 years ago. It was quilted by Linda Leatherstitch, and the Prairie Point edging was done by Sanda Daughtery. Donated by the New Smyrna Beach Church of Christ, 72 by 103. Another beautiful, beautiful quilt. Who give 800? And 800 down at 800, and 800 down at the moment, I'm on 800. Who get 500? It 500 down at the moment, I'm on 500, and 500 down at the moment, I'm on 500 down at the moment, 5. Who get 200? 200, 250. I got 200, 250, 300, and 300 down at the moment, 300, 300, and 300 down at 350, and 350. I'm gonna get 300, 350. It 300 down at 350. I'm gonna get 300, 350, and 3 1/4, and 300 down at 3 1/4. I'm gonna get 300, 3 1/4. I got 300, 3 1/4. It 300 down at 3 1/4. I'm gonna get 325, 3 1/4, and 300, 3 1/4, and 325. I got 300, 3 1/4, and 3 1/4. You went in 325. I got 300 in the middle, 3 1/4, and 325, 350, and 350. I'm gonna get 350. I'm gonna 350, 375, and 375. I'm gonna get 350 to 75. Hit 375. I'm gonna get 350, 375, 350, 75, 375. 375, back in the quarter, $400, $400. He's gonna get 400, 400, 4 1/4, 425, 4 1/4, 400, 4 1/4, 400, 4 1/4, and 425. I'm gonna get 400 in the middle, 4 1/4, 4 1/4. I'm gonna get 400, 4 1/4, and 425. I'm gonna get 400, 4 1/4. If 425, I'm gonna get 400, 4 1/4, 425. You're out the back, 425, 425, and 425, 450, 450. 450. Normally this is where I'd say go ahead and bid, but it's my wife bidding, so 450 and 450 and 4 1/4, 450 and 4 1/4, 450 and 450. I'm gonna get 425, 450 and 450 and 425, 450. Anybody else? I'm gonna get 450 and 4 1/4, 450. I'm gonna get 450, 4 1/4, 450. Sold. $425 back here in the corner. 425. Thank you. All right, number 8, Under the Sea. They're going to leave it right back there because it's got a beautiful light onto it. It's a stunning piece of stained glass art. It was the last project started by the late Teresa Signorelli. It was completed by the ladies of the Orange Avenue Church of Christ stained glass class. It was comprised of over 400 pieces of glass with unique colors. It is a very, very gorgeous piece for any office or home. And how much on it? He'll get $2,000. Hey, man, I get $2,000 now, and I'm on $2,000. And $2,000, who'll give $1,000? $1,000 now, and I'm on $1,000. Hey, man, I get $1,000 now, and I'm on $1,000. There was 8 people walked up to me and said, I'll start it for $500. And I knew none of them was going to get it, but I didn't tell any of them. $500, $5.50, $550, $550, $600, $600, $550, $600, and $600, $650, and $600, $650, and $600, $650. I'm going to get $600, $6.50, and $650. I'm going to get $600, $6.50, and $600, $650. I'm going to get $600, $650, and $6.50, $600, $650. I got $600, $6.50, and $600, $6.50. It's only $1.50 a glass. I mean, you know, you saw the way you look at things is what Brother Charlie was talking about. How we look at things, how we perceive them. $650. It's no money. $1.50 a glass. $650 and $600. $650 and $600. $6.50 and $600. $650. $625. I'll try one more time. $6.25. I got $600. $6.25 and $625 and $6.25. I'm gonna get $600. $625 and $600. $6.25. Is he bidding? $625. $600. $6.25 and $625. Last call. $6.25 in the back. $650 and $650. I'm gonna get $650. $675 and $675. $650 to bid $75 and $675. $75. $75. $675 and $650 to bid $75. It's $675. I'm gonna get $650, $675, $700, $7.25, $7.25, and $725. I'm gonna get $700, $7.25. It's $7.25. I'm gonna get $725. How about it? Yes, you can have it, honey. $7.25 and $700, $7.25. It's $700, $7.25, and $725. How about it? $700, $7.25, and $725. How about it? Quarter, $7.25, and $725, $750, and $775, and $775, and $775. I'm gonna get $750, $75, and $775. I'm going to get $750, $75, and $75, $775, $775, $750 to be $75, and $775. And you want to end the back? I got $750 up here, $775, and $775, $750 to be $75. Last call, $775, $750, $75. Sold, $750. Thank you again, $750. Thank you. Item number 9 on the back, geometry. Beautiful shades of green and red. It's a lovely quilt by the Concord Street Quilters. It comes with a matching pillow sham, and it's 60 by 70. Beautiful little quilt, little throw quilt. How much on it? Him going to get $500, and $500 out of him on $500. He'll give $200, and $200 out of him on $200, $200. Ever bit $200. He'll give $100, $100, $125. I got $100, $150, $150, $150, $150, $125, $150, $150. Got $125 way in the back. $150, $150 to bid $150, $150, $150, $150, $125, $100, $150, $150. Out of $150, $150, $150, $150, $125, $150. Anybody else? $150, $125, $150, $150. Down and got $125 way in the back. $150. Anybody else? $150. I'm gonna get $125, $150, $150. I'm gonna get $125, $150. Last call, $150. Sold in the back in the middle, $125. Thank you, $125. Number 10. Dancing Tulips features over 30 hand applique tulip blocks, all hand done by that. Made by Barbara Fugger of the Spring Garden Avenue Church of Christ. It's 62 by 72. Beautiful, beautiful done. How much? Him, I give $800. That would have been $800. He'll get $500. $500 now, I'm on $500. Now, I'm on $500. Good colors and all. He'll give $200. And $200 now, I'm on $200. $200. Yep, $200 now, I'm on $200. $200. $100 now, I'm on $200. $200 now, I'm on $100. $125. $125. $150. $150. $150. $175. $175. $150 to bid $75. $175 and $200. And $200 now, I'm on $200. $200. And $200. $175 to bid $200. $200. And $200 now, I'm on $200. $200. It $175, $200. I'm $175 right over there. $200. I'm gonna get $200, $200, $200, and $175, $200. Yep, $200 out of my $200. Out of my $200. You say yes, $200, and $200 out of $175 out of it $2. $200 out of my $200. Last call, $225, and $225, $225. I'm gonna get $200, $225, and $225. I'm gonna get $200 with the young man, $225, and now $250, sir, and $250. I'm gonna get $225, $250, and $250. I'm gonna get $225, $250. Yep, $250. I'm gonna get $225, $250, $250, and $250. Good colors. I'm going to get $250 and $225, $250. Thank you. Now $275 and now $275. I'm going to get $250 to be $75 and $270. 5. How about I get 250, 275, and 250 to bid 75. I got 250 right here in the middle, 275 and 275. Anybody else? I'm going to get 250, 275. Last call, 275, 250 to bid 75. Sold, $250. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. $250. Item number 11, Balloon Girl. Made in the 1960s in Florence, Alabama. It was hand appliqued by Louise Dotson Schaff and pieced and hand quilted by Mrs. James Holden. An older quilt right there, gentlemen, a nice one. How much? I'm going to get 800. I'm going to bid $800. Who'll get 5? 500. I'm going to 500. I'm going to get 500. I'm going to bid 5. I'm going to 500. Who'll get 200? $200. I'm going to get 200, 200. Yeah, 200. I'm going to 200, 2 and a quarter, and 250. I'm going to get 250, 275, and 275. I'm going to get 250 to bid 75, and 275, and now I'm going to 275, and 250 to bid 75. Yeah, $250, 275, 250 to bid 75. I got 250 in the front, 275, and 250 to bid 75. Yeah, 275. I'm going to get 250 to bid 75, and 275. Anybody else? 250 to bid 75, 275, 250, 275, and 275. I'm going to get 250 to bid 75. Last call, 275. No kind of money on this quilt. 275, 300, 300, 3 and a quarter, 3 and a quarter, 325, 325. I'm going to get 300, 3 and a quarter. I'm going to get 300, 3 and a quarter, and 325. I'm going to get 300, 3 and a quarter, and 325. I'm going to get 300, 3 and a quarter. Now on 350, and 350, 375, and 375, and 350 to bid 75, and 375. I'm going to get 350 to bid 75, and 375, and now 400, and now 4 and a quarter, and 425 to bid 400, 4 and a quarter, and $400, 4 and a quarter, and 425. I'm going to get 400. 4 and a quarter, 450, and 450, 475, and 475. I'm going to get 450 to bid 75. Hit 475. I'm going to get 450 to bid 75. 475, and now 500, and 500, 500. Hit 500, 475, 500. Hit 500 down to 500, 500, 475, 500, and 500. And Jack finally made it to his wife, and she's buying it. Hit 500. That would have been 500. And $500, 500, 475, 500. Last call. I'm going to get 500. Sold, $475. Thank you, Miss McDonald. Number 12 is the horse back there. Intarsia horse, handcrafted by Bill Fugger. It is the art of using different types of wood to create color. The different colors and the shades and the form and the texture is taking a lot of time and effort. The pieces that are in this are maple, walnut, I think it's sapelli, aspen, and a W word. They didn't tell me I was going to have to read when I became an auctioneer. Beautiful, beautiful little piece. How much on it? Who get 500? And 500 on 5. Yep, 500 down, I'm on 500. And I'm going to get 500. Yep, I'm on 500, I'm on 500, I'm on 5. Who get 200? And $200, 200, and $200 I'm on 2, $200 I'm on 100, 100 a quarter, 100 a quarter, $100, 125, 150, 175, $200, 2 and a quarter, 225, 250, and 250. I got 225 on this side of the room, 250. I'm gonna get 250, 250. I'm gonna get 225, 250. Yep, 250. I'm gonna get 225, 250, and 250. I'm gonna get 225, 250, and 250, 250, 275, and now 300, and 300, 300. Yep, 275 and 300, 300, 300, and 300. 3 and a quarter, and 325, and 350, and 350. I'm going to get 325, and 350, and 350. I'm going to get 350. I'm going to get 350, and 3 and a quarter, 350, and 3. Doesn't eat very much. It doesn't shed. I mean, it's just beautiful. 350, and 3 and a quarter, 350, and 3 and a quarter, 350. I'm going to get 350, and 350. I'm going to get 3 and a quarter, 350. Anybody else? 350, 350. Last call, 350. Sold, $325. Thank you, sir. 325. Item number 13, Noah's Ark. Beautiful little baby quilt made by the Concord Street Christ Quilters, 54 by 54. Cute little quilt right there. Noah's Ark. How much? I'm going to get 200. And $200, I'm going to $200. I'm going to get 200, 200. Who'll give 100? $100, $100, I'm 100, 100 and a quarter. I got 100, 125, 100 to be 125. I got $100, 1 and a quarter. I'm gonna go 125, 150, 150, 175, 175 and 200, 200, 200, 2 and a quarter, and 225 and 250, and 250, 275, and 275, and I got 250 to be 75. I got 250 this young table right here, and 275, and 275, and I got 250 to be 75. Yep, 275, and I got 250 to 275, and 250, 275. Anybody else? 275, 250, 275. Last call. 275. Thank you, sir. 300. And now 3 and a quarter. And 325 and 350. And 350, 375. And 375. And 350 to be 75. And 350 to be 75. And 375 and I got 350 to be 75. Last call. 375 and 350 to be 75. Sold. $350. Thank you. Thank you. $350. Item number 14. Double quilt. This top was pieced by Geraldine Cantrell and was quilted by the ladies at the Orange Avenue Church of Christ. It's 80 inches by 80 inches. Nice, cute little quilt right there. How much on it? He'll get 500. And 500 on 5, 500 on 5. He'll get 200. And 200 out on 200, 200. It 200 out on 200, 200 out on 2, $200 down on 200, 200. And 200 out. He'll give $100. $100. $100. 100 bid, 100 out on 100 bid. 100 to buy, 100 and a quarter, 100 and a quarter. I got 100, 100 and a quarter, 125, I'm going to get $100, 1 and a quarter, 125 and a 125, 100 and a quarter, $100, 125, 100 and a quarter, 125, way in the back, and 150, and 150, 150, I'm going to get 125, 150, 150, and 150. Maybe it's upside down. Let's turn it over, see if it helps. I mean, for some odd reason, they're just not buying this quilt. I don't understand. 150. 150. The guys don't believe me either. 150, 125, 150, 150. I got 125 way in the back. 150, $150. 150. I'm going to go 125, 150. Thank you. 175, 175, 175. Which way would you like for us to hold it, ma'am? 175, 170. We could turn it sideways if you want. 150, 175, 175. Thank you. Now 200 and 200 out on 200, 200. Yep, 200 out on 200, 200, 200. 175, 200 and 200 out on 200, 200. I got 175, 200. I got 175. Way in the back, $200. I'm going to get 200, 200. Thank you. Now 2 and a quarter and 225 and 2 and a quarter. I'm going to get 200, 225 and $200, 2 and a quarter. Way in the back, 225. Thank you. 250 and 250. I'm going to get 225, 250 and $250 and 250. I'm going to get 225, 250 and 250. I'm going to get 250. I got 225 with that young lady right back there. She's been with me all the way. 250 and 225, 250 and plus she's better looking than you, sir. 250 and 2 and a quarter, 250 and 250. I'm going to get 250 and 2 and a quarter. 250 and 250. I'm going to get 225 with her. 250 and 250. Last call. 225, 250. Now 275 and 275, ma'am. And 275 and 250 to be 75 and 75 and 75. I got 250 bid 275 and 275, ma'am. 250, 275 and 250, 275. Thank you. Now 300 and 300, 3 and a quarter and 325. I'm going to get 300, 3 and a quarter and 325. I'm going to get 300, 3 and a quarter and 3 and a quarter. I'm going to get 300, 3 and a quarter and 325. I'm going to get quarter, 325. I got 300 in the middle here, 3 and a quarter in the back, and 325. The back is out, 325, and 325, and 300, 3 and a quarter. I'm going to get 325. Last call, 3 and a quarter. Sold it, $300. Thank you. Right down here, $300. Item number 15. Sunbonnet Susan. Beautiful little baby quilt. Was made by Sarah Andrew of the Griffin Road Church of Christ, 54 by 66, Sunbonnet Susan. Very nice. How much on it? I'm going to get 500. And 500 on 5, 500 on 500. And I'm sure we could pick somebody out in there that we can recognize, huh? 500. 500. And 500 on 500. Who'll give 200? 200 out of 200, 200, and 200 out of 200 out of 200, 200. Who give 100 for it? $100 bill, 100 and a quarter, everywhere, 100 and a quarter, 150, 150, 175, 175 and 200, and 200, 2 and a quarter, and 225, 250. Yep, 250. I'm going to get 225, 250, and 275, and 250 to be 75. I got 250 back there with a young man, 275, ma'am, 275, and 250 to be 75, and 75 to be 250, 275. And these kids don't scream or nothing. If you turn it sideways, they're sleeping. sleeping. And 275, and 250 to bid 75, and 250, 275. I got 250, 275, and 275. Thank you. Now 300, 3 and a quarter, and 3 and a quarter. I'm running out of ideas. 3 and a quarter, and $300, 3 and a quarter, and 325. I got 300 over here, 3 and a quarter, and 325. 300 to bid, 325, and 3 and a quarter. Last call, 325, 300, 3 and a quarter, 325. Sold it, $300 back here in the corner, $300. Thank you very much. Item number 16. We're doing good because I told James we'd be done at 8:30. So y'all got to be a little faster. A black Afghan, hand knitted by Betty Bolinsky of the Orange Avenue Church of Christ. It's 80 by 88. A lot of color. At 500. And 500 on 500. And 500 down on 500. Who'll give 200? And 200 down on 200, 200, 200. And 200 down on 2, 200 down on 2. Who'll give $100 for it? 100 and a quarter everywhere. 100 and a quarter. 150, 150, 125, 150, 150. I'm going to go 125, 150, 150. I'm going to go 125, 150. I'm 1 and a quarter in the back. Then 150, 175, 175 on this side. 175, 150 to bid 75, 175. I got 150 bid, 175. I got 150 in that corner over there. 175 over here. 175, 150 to bid 75, 175, 150, 175, 175. Yes? 175 and now 200 and 200, 200, 200 and 200 down with 200, 200. I got 175 over here, 200 and $200, 225 and 2 and a quarter, 250 and 250 and 225, 250 over here somewhere, 250 and 225, 250 and 250. I'm gonna get 225, 250. I got 2 and a quarter back there, 250 and 250. I'm gonna get 225, 250. Anybody else? 250. We don't miss nobody. 250 and 225, 250. Last call, 250, 275. 275. You owned it for that long. And 275. And 250 to bid 75. And now you can only hope to get it on the weekends. 275. And 250 to bid 75. And 275. And I got 250. 275. And 275. How many moment? I'm on 250, 275. Anybody else? 275. 250 to bid 75. Thank you. Now 300. And 300. 300. And $300 down. I'm on 275. 300. And $300 down. 300. 300. 300. And $300 down. 300. 300. Now, she don't want to have to make you one, sir. That's for sure. And 300. Take her forever. And $300, 275, 300, and $300, 300, 300, and $300, 275, 300. Last call. You want to give 300, 300, 275, 300? Now 3 and a quarter. Now 3 and a quarter. 325 and 3 and a quarter. I'm going to get 300, 3 and a quarter. That time you owned it for that long. 3 and a quarter and 3 and a quarter. 300, 325. I get 300, 3 and a quarter and 325. How about a month? 3 and a quarter. Last call. 325, 300 bid 325. Sold it. $300. Thank you. $300. Number 17, made in the 1980s in Florence, Alabama. It was hand appliqued by Mrs. J.G. Walsh, and it was quilted by Mrs. Holden, 80 by 94. Very nice quilt. All the strawberries, how much? Anybody get 500? And 500 on 500 down on 500, who'll give 200. And 200 down on 200, 200, 200. And 200 down on 2, 200 down on 200, 200, $100. 1 and a quarter, 125. 100 to be 125. 100 and a quarter, 125. $100, 1 and a quarter. 100 and a quarter, I'm going to go 125. $100, 1 and a quarter. 125, 100 and a quarter, 125. At 100 be 125. You don't have to worry about a midnight snack. You're right there with it. Yes. Right, 100 and a quarter. $100, 125, 100 and a quarter. Get you a midnight snack right there, 1 and a quarter. Thank you. 150, 150, 150, 150, 125, 150, 150. I'm going to go 125, 150 to buy the night. 150, 125, 150, 150, 150. I'm going to go 125, 150. Anybody else? 150, 120. Did you want in? 150, 120, okay, 150, 125, 150, thank you. Now 175, 175, 175, 150 to bid 75. I got 150 way in the back, 175, 175, and 150, 175, 175, 200, 200, 200 way in the back, 200, 200 down, and I'm 200, 200, 200, 175, 200, and 200 down, and I'm 200, 200, 175, $200. I'm going to get 200, last call, $200, 175, and a bit 2. You want the back, 200, 200? Sold, $175. Thank you, sir. $175. Item number 18, now I lay me down to sleep. This beautiful baby quilt was made by the Concord Street Quilters. It comes with a matching pillow sham, 44 by 44. Beautiful little quilt. How much? All right, how much on it? Him to get forward. Him to be forward, down with him, I'm going to be 400. And 400 down with him, 400, 400 down with him, 400 down with him. Who give 200? And 200 down with him, 200, 200. Some of y'all going like this, so I got it sideways or something? 200. Woo. 200. And 200 down with him, 200, 200. Who give 100? 100. $100. $100. 100 bid 100 to buy. $100, 100, 100, 1 and a quarter, 125. 100 to be 125. $100, 1 and a quarter, 100 and a quarter, 125. 100 to be 125. If you don't have a baby, you can donate it to the church you go to, and they can put it in that room with them, the nursery, you know? 125. 125. Got 100 with this young lady. 125. Anybody else? 125. 100 to be 125. $100, 1 and a quarter. 125. I'm going to give 100, 1 and a quarter. Anybody with them on 125? Last call. 100 and a quarter. 125. Sold. $100. Who was it over here? $100? Thank you, ma'am. Okay, if you have not bought anything, here's your chance. We got 2 left. Item number 19. Feathers to and fro, a warm afghan on navy monk cloth with Swedish weave stitching. The yarn colors are seashell, rose mist, plum wine, and red heart. It was made by Kathy Martin of the Sanford Church of Christ, 54 by 80. How much on it? Him gonna get 400, how much on it? Him gonna get 400. And 400 down with him on 400, 400. He'll get 200. And 200 down with him on 200, 200 down with him on 2. Who'll give 100? $100, 100 and a quarter everywhere, 100 and a quarter, 150, 150, 150, got 125, 150, 150, all y'all are out, 150, 125, 150, 150, everybody get 125, 150, 150, everybody get 125, 150, 150, everybody get 125, 150, I got 125, 150, 150, everybody get 125, 150, 175, 175, nice throw, 175, 150 to be 75, 175, feels very nice, 175, 150 to be 175, 150 to be 175, 150, 175, 175. Anybody else? 150 to be 175. How many on 175? 150 to be 75. 200, 200, 200. I'm going to get 200, 200. 2 and a quarter. 225, 250, 250. I'm going to get 225, 250. And 225, 250. I'm going to get 225, 250. Yeah, 250. I'm going to get 225, 250. Last call. 250. I'm going to get 225, 250. Sold. 2 and a quarter. Thank you, sir. 225. Item number 20, a trip around the world. We'd love to have a trip around the world. Look what you're going to pay for a trip around the world. A wall hanging. It was made in the 80s by an Amish quilter, Mrs. Horst, donated by Maxine Drake. It's 40 by 40. Trip around the world for $500. Who wants to do it? 500. Yeah, 500. And 500, I'm on 500, I'm on 500. He's going to get 500, David, I'm on 5. He'll get 2. $200. He's going to get 200, 200. Yeah, 200, David, I'm on 200, 200. He's going to get $200. Who'll give 100? $100, 1 and a quarter. I'm in the quarter and 100, 1 and a quarter. $100, 125. 100 and a quarter, you're going to get 125. 100 and a quarter, 125. 100 to be 125. $100, 1 and a quarter. 125, I'm going to get 100, 1 and a quarter. Anybody else? 125, 150, 150, 150, 150, 150. I'm going to get 125, 150. 150, I'm going to get 125, 150. I got 125 in the middle. 150, 150 in the back, 150. 125, 150. Anybody else? 150, 150, 150, 125, 150. Last call, 150, 125, 150. Sold in the middle, $125. Thank you. $125 sold right there in the middle.
Thank you, Tommy Stiffy. Let's give Tommy a great big hand of appreciation. Thank you, Tommy. And we raised $9,975 in the quilt auction and in the other items that we had for bid. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for making the Boyd Scholarship Dinner such a wonderful event. Thank you for the donations that you've given here tonight and your pledges and gifts. And once again, those of you who've donated items for our auction, we give you our grateful appreciation. We have a whole host of friends here tonight from the Lake County Public School System, among which is the principal of Lost Lake Elementary School and the Teacher of the Year from Lost Lake. And they are friends of Cleta Horton and Adrian Boyd and some of our other Boyd family members. Could I ask all of you guys that are visiting from the Lake Public County system, would you please stand, and your spouses? We're delighted to have y'all here tonight. Thank you. Some of you basketball fans would be interested in knowing that Mr. Emmerich right over here, his father, Mr. Emmerich, could I ask you to stand? His father is still the leading scorer for the University of Florida in Gainesville. Mr. Emmerich, glad to have you here. As Charlie Body said tonight earlier, we are in the process of trying to raise $10 million in our campaign. Imagine keeping the mission going. Imagine campaign of continuing the mission that's been going on here since 1945. And so any way that you can help us in this great endeavor, any friends that you could lead us to that could help us raise $10 million, we're going to build a new track and redo our football field. We're adding computers in our classroom for all of the K through 12 with iPads and upgrading all of our technology here. All of our teachers this year have iPads, and we have about 300 computer stations here that we've had for quite a while, but now that technology is doing what it's doing in our world, we want to make sure that we stay on the cutting edge and bring our students along with the technological knowledge and basis that they need. We're also rebuilding and redoing completely our science building. We've been blessed to receive a $2 million gift from a lady over here in Leesburg that's going to help us completely redo our science building. And we have a number of other things that are a part of this $10 million campaign. If you got somebody that needs greater information about this, we'd love to sit down and talk to you. I don't mind having on my tombstone, when I die, and the beggar died. If I go to the same place that other guy went to, I'll be a happy camper. There's only one thing that would make me happier: if you'd help me reach that $10 million. And I'd die in total pleasure. And I'd be happy to do that tonight if anybody would like to hasten the process. Now then, let me close with a special announcement. This is our 31st Boyd dinner. And to my knowledge, the oldest couple here tonight would be Philip and Ruth Starley. And they have attended every one of these 31 Boyd dinners. And tomorrow, they are celebrating their 75th wedding anniversary. Philip, where are you and Ruth? Right back here. 2 of their 3 children are here tonight. Eileen from Fort Worth, Texas, and her husband Dale are here. And their son Jerry and his wife are here, and their other son David is on the way. Will be at their house by the time they get back tonight. But tomorrow, from 2 until 4 o'clock at the Plymouth Church of Christ, there's going to be a celebration in honor of Philip and Ruth, and each one of you is invited to go by and share well wishes with them from 2 to 4 o'clock tomorrow. Now, could I ask you to please stand, and their son Jerry Starling is going to lead us in our benediction.
I didn't know when I came tonight that Charlie Body would be here. He and I were in the same graduating class in 1956. But I was also privileged to be in the first grade class of 1945. And I was the first person to enroll in the first grade and graduate from the school. Let's pray. Holy Father, as I look back over the years as I realize the benefit that I received in this school. And as I see the great strides that have been made since I graduated in '56, I'm impressed and awed. And I pray that this school may always hold to its roots, that it may always be a place where Christian service is taught, where no student is turned away for lack of funds, where opportunities are given to those who do not know God and who have not obeyed the gospel. Opportunities that can lead them in the paths of righteousness and of godliness. Help all of us, Father, to keep our eye fixed firmly on the goal that you have put before us. Help us to understand the things that are truly important. That though bodily exercise profits for a little, but godliness is profitable for all things. And so as we go forth, Father, let us go realizing the needs that are all around the world. Help us always to be able to recognize those places that are earnestly seeking after your will. And help us, Father, in our nation to pray earnestly every day for the time of turning and revival that would bring us back into the roots on which this nation was founded, is our prayer through Jesus.